Hello all, weekly classes, quarter 3, week 2, day 1. This is Picture This. This week we are going to discuss character concept art and the creation of personalized character reference art using photography in Adobe Photoshop CS6. Now, that's not actually what my original plan was. My original plan was for us to go online and to find concept art, right? We were going to go to the internet and we were going to find some awesome concept art. So that's what I was going to do. I actually went on the internet and I started looking at concept art, and I didn't really find a lot that I liked. It's like creepy stuff like this. Like, who wears this? Why are her toes turned in like that? Like, look, where would you go in this outfit? Like, why? So I just kind of got to the point where, like, all the concept art, and some of it's really great, like the art itself is good, but good lord, she's gonna have back problems. I don't understand like what this outfit is saying, and her legs are together, which just makes it difficult to put bones in her legs. So I did some looking around and I wasn't happy because all the women or females had huge boobs and were half naked, and all the dudes were like the Hulk. Right? There's some that stand out that are actually, you know, not terribly proportioned. I really liked this, the TF2 stuff. That was kind of cool. But all their arms were sort of at an angle that I didn't like, because it would be difficult to, when we get to skinning, it'd be difficult to skin their armpits. It wouldn't be impossible, but, you know. So I kind of did that, and then I tried looking at more stuff, you know, different types of searches to get better character art. But once again, like, why is she wearing that? Like, this, it doesn't make sense. I know it's like whatever, it is what it is. So that was the plan. So then I had to get a new plan because I was very disappointed. So then I thought, a lot of artists do self-portraits, and it would be really valuable to not only learn about making a character, but learn about it by making something that we can use. So I figured, well, I'll take a picture. Okay, we'll take pictures of it. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll need a picture, so I'll need to take the picture, and I'll take the picture of myself because that's the person I have access to, the most easy access. And then I realized it might be weird for you guys to stare at me while you model. At least my students. I don't know, it might be weird. So I'm going to use a picture to model from that will be mine, but you will be modeling yourself, which is more or less creepy. I don't know. That's up to you. So today, the first thing we're going to talk about is orthographic photography. Whenever you take a picture, you have something called lens distortion. Now, different types of lenses give different types of distortion. I have a website here that has some pictures. So this is a 350mm lens, and this is a 24mm lens of the same woman. Now you can tell that she doesn't look the same. Her forehead looks big. Her whole like middle of her face is like expanded out. Her nose looks huge, and yet that's, you know, it's the same woman on the same day. So there's obviously a difference here. Okay, what happens is, if you take an image, see, once again, this is a 200mm lens and this is a 24mm. You can see how her face is distorted and her nose looks really big, and you can see the difference as we get further and further away. Once again, I'm pretty sure this model tried to stay in the exact same pose, and the camera person took the picture from the same place, or at least close. But what it does show you is the difference in how the lens can distort things. There's another section up here that's also interesting, how the closer you are, the greater the distance in the view line. Okay, so from back here, the distance in the view line is much smaller compared to when you're up close. This is a problem because we're going to see when we work with an orthographic view, we want it to be perfectly orthographic. So things that are far away are going to be the same size as the things that are up close. Now, the only way we can do that in real life is to get really far away from our subject and use a zoom lens. So that's what I went about doing. Initially, I didn't. initially we tried taking a faraway picture in the hallway with a not extensive zoom, so just more of a static zoom. And the problem here is we couldn't get close enough with the lens we had, so there's a whole lot of wasted spots in the image, and it just didn't work out too well. So then we went ahead and got a zoom lens, and it really helped a ton. You can see that that's a much better shot. Takes up more of the image. So fixing lens distortion is all about getting the right zoom, or getting as far away as you can and still getting enough detail on the image to make sure that the orthographic nature of it is as good as you're going to get. You want to be as far away from your subject as possible, and it really helps to have a solid contrasting background. We used green because there's no green in your skin, and most of the clothes you wear, we wear here at Crooms, aren't going to be like blending in with green. So it worked out pretty well. I also drew a line on the background. I used that as a level just to make sure that I had something in the image that we could make sure that was straight. So if something got misaligned, or if the camera was off center, because we were using a tripod, we knew what direction level would be, so we could rotate it in Photoshop. So that's what we did. So we got this self-portrait. Now we took two images, one from the front, one from the side, and now what we're going to do is we're going to take those images into Photoshop, and we are going to modify them. Okay, hopefully we're going to modify them so that they work. Now the big goal here is to actually use the images that we have effectively, not to touch up anything, because as much as I would love to look better, that's not really the goal here. So we are going to grab our images. Now these are the images I'm using for this today. This is my front view. Okay, so quickly we will look at this image. Now here's my level line. I just got a level out and drew it down. And this is my image. Now I obviously couldn't take this and see myself at the same time as I was taking the picture. So a couple things aren't ideal. It'd be nice if my pants down here weren't like bunched up, but you do what you gotta do. Now you may be wondering about all this other stuff in the frame. It's distracting, but it's not that big of a deal. What we want to do first, though, is we do want to sort of crop down to just the file we're working with. So I'm also going to get my side picture, which I took at the same time, and I'm going to drop it in there as a second layer. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, holding Alt and using my middle mouse wheel. I'm going to align that picture with the other one. So I should be able to hit Enter and place it. I'm going to change the viewport, or the view of it, so you can see one and then see the other. You can see the background shifts a little bit, but mostly it's about the same. Okay, now I know that if the image is about the same, I can crop this thing down to this, since this is the much larger of the two files. But first I want to make sure that everything is sort of aligned properly. This is where guides are really going to help a ton. Okay, we're going to use these guides. Alright, now you can create guides by grabbing the ruler, and if you can't see the ruler, you can make sure you go to View and go to Rulers. You can click inside this ruler and pull down. What we really want to do is make sure things are level. You'd be surprised how many times you take a picture and your arms aren't level. Mine aren't perfect, but they're pretty close. From the side, I'm going to want to find my center line. Okay, and we'll zoom in and try and find my center line. Come on, I gotta grab the arrow tool there. I'm gonna scoot that over. That's roughly about center. You can see my head's relatively straight. Once again, you'll notice that there are many times that you will find that you think your head is straight and it's not. We're only going to model half of our body anyway, so it doesn't really matter which side you like better. You'll choose one when you're actually doing the modeling. Over here I'm going to put another line through here which is my level line. Actually, I'm going to put it through my eyeballs. There. Alright. Relatively aligned. Great. So that's my center line. And that's what we're going to use for the center line. Now, once again, we're really only going to model half of our self-portrait there. So now you should have pulled in your own images at this point. If you want, you can use mine. If you're into that, that's fine. I don't care. I guess it's there for you if you want to. Now, okay, so we've got our left view and we've got our front view. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of block this out some. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to grab this. I'm actually going to use a fixed ratio style, which is up here, which is 1:1. And I'm going to sort of find my corner here and do this. Now, I'm trying to get this so it's just so my fingers are in the image. There. That's good enough. And now I'm going to crop. Alright, now I'm going to make sure that everything's still together, which is good. The next thing I'm going to do is use my lines to make sure that my head height, which it looks like I'm going to have to zoom in some. Get my head height-ish. And my feet height. Make sure my feet and my head are aligned in both images. Basically, I want to make sure that they're both the same size, which they are. You can see my feet line up right about there, and my feet line up in right about the same spot. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but it's close enough. Okay, my fingertips are on this line. If we look at this side, it's pretty close. Once again, we're not going to get perfect. The closer you are to perfect, the better, but you know, you do what you do. You also notice my eyes are a little higher in this shot than in the other. My head was up a little bit. I could take the time, crop my head out and rotate it a little bit. I don't know if that's really worth it. It's debatable, but I'm not going to. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to align my top view with the rest of the image. So I'm going to grab this one, move it over like that, so it's basically in the center. Mostly I'm concerned to make sure my the top of my head and my feet line up with the image as it was before. And I'm roughly in the middle of the image, so my pelvis is roughly in the center. There we go. Good enough. Okay, great. Excuse me. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is block out some of this stuff. So all of this, these computers in the way, I'm going to try and get some of that out of the way. All right, I'm going to look at this view. I'm going to create a new layer. We'll just call this matte, M-A-T-T-E. Basically, I'm going to use this matte, use shapes, and try and just block out what we have. Sorry about that bell, it's really annoying. I'm going to click this here. I'm going to click the fill. So I'm selecting the rectangle tool. I'm going to select fill, and I'm going to come down here and hold Alt and just pick one of these colors down here. And then I'm going to create this matte right there that's going to matte that out. Oops, wrong button. And do the same thing down here. Good. And the same thing up here. Cancel. Okay. Undo. Cancel. Why is it doing that? Weird. Oh, maybe it put it below. I don't know. That's bizarre. Cancel. There. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is sort of like just clean up the view so that we don't have all that other distracting stuff in there. We could get a lot more detail here. It's not really that important. I just like to have sharper edges in the image. Same thing with that. Now, I'm going to take all these rectangles that I have. highlight them all, right click, and I'm going to merge shapes so that now they're all their own shape on their own layer. And we've got both pieces sort of set up. And it's basically done. Alright, cool. I keep clicking the wrong button. Sorry about that. Alright, great. So this is the image itself. I've got my guidelines. Everything's pretty much ready to go. Now I can render it out. Okay. I could render it out, but it's also would be good to sort of put some information on here so that I remember when I'm in there. So I'm actually going to go ahead and create a text layer. So I'm going to make this now my image size. Let's check. My canvas size right now is 1956 by 1956. All right. So I'm going to change it. I could leave it like that. Actually, let's do that. 1956 by 1956. And I don't like that color, so I'm going to change it to black. Okay. I'll make it a little bit bigger. 60. There, so I can see it. Great. Great. All right. Also, I'm 6 feet tall, or 6 feet 2 inches tall. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a black line on a new layer for my height, just as a reference. Once again, to remind myself how many centimeters that is. Now, if you do the math, you can go on the internets and find how the conversion rate. But for now, I'm just going to select my layer, select there, and choose a color, black. And I'm going to go from here, opacity at 10% from earlier today. Okay, there we go. Good, good. There we go. I'm holding shift to make sure that I, create a perfectly straight line. I'm going to create text on this layer too. And this will be 188 centimeters. Okay, good. Great. Now I'm going to merge these two layers together. Merge layers, and there, it's already set the height, or 188 centimeters, so that's good. Alright, cool. So I've got all these layers as well. So all of this is pretty good. So I can look at it from, so I've got my two images that I'm ready to render out. Now I probably don't want to render it out with this line on there when it's in the front view, because it sort of hides my arm, especially because I'll probably be using this arm to build from. You could do either side, it doesn't really matter. Whichever one you think looks better is fine. So we're going to do that. Now I know that my image canvas size is 1956 by 1956, which is cool. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and set this as my first one. I'm going to go to File, Save for Web. It's already 1956 by 1956. I'm going to save it as a PNG 24, and I'm just going to hit Save. You can see I've already done this once. We'll call it F2. And I'm going to save it. That's good. Once it's done. Good. Now I'm going to hide the height one, hide the side view, and go File, Save for Web. Once again, it's still the same image size, and it should be good. It should be about 1.63 megs. Hit Save. Where's oh, that was side. Oh well. Well, let's call this just 2. We'll fix it in a second. Alright, cool. So, when that's done saving, we're going to go ahead and close this out. Don't close it, actually. Go ahead and save it. I'll pull it up and save it as Ortho 2. Save as, we'll call this Ortho 2. Save. Okay, great. And I'll put that file in there for you. Okay, great. So I need to rename some stuff since I did some dumb things. Like I call this front F2, and it should be S2. And this should be F2. Alright, good. Good, good, good. Okay, so now that I've got my images, I can move them into 3D Studio. Hit front. Now, go into your material editor, just like you've done many times before. I'm going to call this reference REF front. Give it a name first, and I'm going to drag my F2 in there. And it looks like I'm a big guy. And then, let's see, S2, I can drag that in there, and then I can change it to ref side. Okay, cool. So from the front, which I'm in front for fuchsia, I can just drag this onto there, and 1956 is by 1956 is how big the image should be, right? So we'll get to this in a second and figure out exactly how big it is and how tall I need to be. But first we need to go to the left. Hit L for left, lavender left, and there's the left view. Now once again, you guys have done this before, so this is no big deal. Now we don't have a top view. That would be difficult to get, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete that now so that we don't have to worry about it. So from the front, great, fantastic. So we know that I am 100, actually let's go left. I'm 188 centimeters tall. Okay, so hit W. I'm going to move this up, put my feet on the ground. This, I'm going to select my cube, go to the modify panel, and set the height to 188. That's super convenient. And very strange. Let's pretend that it didn't work out so well. What I need to do is I need to make sure that this is set at the proper dimensions first, because if your image isn't square, or if there's a bunch of other things, you need to make sure that we set that first. My image is square, and I made sure of that. Your image should be square if you followed along with Photoshop, but just in case it's not, you make sure you put your height and width in. And my height and width is 1956 by 1956. Alright, and then I'm going to scale it down evenly. So I'm going to set it up to uniform scale, and then I'm going to scale it down until everything lines up. Alright, hit W, make sure I should get this all the way. Move this down so my feet are there. It needs to come down a little bit more. Now, down here under my scale, you can see right now I'm at 10%, or 10.66. I'm going to change that to 10.0. That's not enough. I'm going to have to go to 9. It's too much. So how about 10.8? I mean 9.8. Duh. That's probably still a little too much. So 9.9. Once we have this set, and you'll notice that I can see through my cube. You should be able to as well. And once again, we're just going to be pretty close. If it's not 100% accurate, it's probably okay. So I'm setting that up. That's good. So from the front view, this image needs to once again be resized to 1956 by 1956. And then we're going to scale it. Now we already know the scaling, right? Because we said that already. It should be 9.9, and I should be able to hit W and move it, and it should be just about right. Cool. There. Now that's the appropriate size of me in 3D Studio. Now the next thing we need to do is make sure our setup is right. So I'm going to freeze because I know my reference planes are fine. I'm going to freeze my reference plane. So under reference layer, freeze. Once again, you should have this file set up already, so that's good. So now I'm going to make sure my front is my front. So I'm going to select my cube, convert my cube to editable poly, hit the number 4 or select polygon. This should be the front of my body. So that's the front. If I hit L, this is backwards. So that's kind of annoying because for some reason the left view is of your right side. So when I took this image, I was thinking the left view is from the left side, but that's not the case. The left view is of the right side. So you have two options. You could flip this file around in 3D Studio, which is totally viable, or you could come back into Photoshop, take this file here, this image, and flip it. Either one works. Either one works. Whichever is easier. The only problem by flipping this, the numbers will be backwards. If you care, that's something. If not, which I don't at the moment, I'm just going to take this file, hit E for rotate, grab my left reference, and hit A for angle snap, and make sure it's set to 180 degrees. There we go. So that's done. Front, left, and this is basically done. Although I don't want to get rid of this. I am going to delete this soon because I'm not going to work off of a cube. I'm going to work off a cylinder. Before we're done, the last step here is I'm going to pull the modeling material off of that. So I'm going to go to my material editor, select my third one, and then I'm going to click the eyedropper and then click on my cube. Alright, and it's called modeling material already, which is super nice. So it's ready to go. Now I'm going to delete this cube. I'm going to delete the cube, and I'm going to freeze my layers, and then I'm going to save this as day one end. Alright, so that's there. Front view, left view. From the front view, it's not quite lined up, so before I quit, I should make sure it's lined up. So tomorrow we can just hit the ground running. Once again, we want it perfectly lined up as best we can. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Last sort of freeze there. Reference layer, freeze. Alright, we're good to go. We're ready to go for tomorrow. We have this set up. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. Classes 3D, Quarter 2, Day 1, and we'll call it End 2. Save as. I messed up. Classes 3D. Basically, you're going to save it. I'm going to save it as N2, and then we're going to be ready to go tomorrow. I guess I'm going to save it as N1. Or just N. That's good. Okay, cool. All right, so that's it. We're done for today. I think we're ready to go for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to start with some cylinders. We're going to start creating the pelvis area and then move from there. So I hope you're excited to start working on your self-portrait, and we'll start modeling tomorrow. Thanks for watching.